All right. And we're back. Kind of. uh
Well,
so
well, my response will actually be there. You just didn't hear it.
right, that is correct. And then I
So
interrupted it. So
yeah,
uh here's what happened. Apparently there was nothing wrong, as I'm sure you all know, with Dave's audio. What happened and what I didn't realize until after the fact is that my headphones had died. So I couldn't hear him.
oopsie daisy.
And yeah, so my fault. And it was interesting because I had 40% and it never takes 40%, for an hour. I've listened to full 3 hour long sessions on audio and it's taken, 15% of the battery
Right,
power. So
right.
it didn't even, it didn't even occur to me that my headphones had died. And so, yeah, my bad.
So here's what's interesting about that too is that wow. Here's what's interesting about that is that I restarted my whole setup, and I'm still having the exact same issues with hearing everything coming through my speakers on both my desktop and my monitor and my headphones, which is really strange that it's going to all three of them. I could see if it was going to one or obviously the wrong one. Like I want it to go to my headphones, but it's going to, let's say, my monitor. Okay, there's obviously an issue. That's my user error. But then it's going to two things. Okay, well, now that's kind of strange. Now it's going to three things, which is, I find extremely odd that it can split the signal three ways. I've never seen that before.
I while I was waiting for you to come back, and you had to you rebooted. We had the audio problem, which I thought was a Streamyard issue,
Right,
or your computer issue, and then you couldn't connect to your Wi-Fi, which is why it took a little longer to come back.
right.
Um, my first thought was, well, that's what we get for making fun of Skype,
It was either
and
making fun of Skype or the lingering effects of the Ouija board.
it's just I
People
was just like, this
thinking
is
that it's not
Streamyard
real.
saying, it was like, this is Streamyard saying, hold my beer, while I completely screw up your show. Um,
This is the Ouija board from 12 years ago saying, remember that thing you guys did about patience and the paranormal, about how time doesn't move in the same thing that you guys move in? Well, guess what, Dave?
yeah. So, all
that
right.
that 12 years has been 5 minutes on my end.
Do you do you want to add anything to your answer from last session?
Well, okay, so we'll say something followed me home. So I'll kind of just skim over what I had said and then get into my point. So the Ouija board. So when you're doing a Ouija board session, or like I said, witchcraft or Satanism or conjuring, some type of conjuring spell or whatever, if you manage to open up a door, open a portal, invite something in, conjure up some sort of being, some sort of negative entity, um, it does. You don't. I don't believe that you have to be the one actively participating in that in order to be affected by it. So this particular individual could have certainly been affected by it. Um, so there I differ a little bit in my thought from what your answer was. Secondly, I don't I'm not a I don't know a lot about Buddhism. I do know that in Buddhism, like everything is life and everything is sacred and stuff. Um, but I don't know enough about like Buddhism and attachments and the specifics of that, like I do with Christianity beliefs and faith. So I I digress a little from your answer though, because I don't think that the important part here was the offering of fruits and food. I think the important part here was the fact that she recited a prayer, and I think that goes. I think that goes across any type of belief system. I don't care if you're, Buddhist or Catholic or just Christian, or if you're non-denominated. I don't think it really makes any difference. I think that if you believe in a higher power and that you reach out to that higher power for help through prayer, that power has the ability to help you. You're asking for something, you're praying to this thing that's superior to you, and you're asking for its help. And if it feels that you're worthy, I guess is the simple way of putting it, it's going to respond by giving you the help that you're searching for. So I think here that the offering of fruits and food is irrelevant. I think that the prayer is what really brought forth some change. Could it be the placebo effect? I don't think the placebo effect is a proper term there. I think like anything else with energy, like you could walk into it. We talk about this all the time. You walk into a room, you feel energy. There's a change in the energy in a room. Somebody walks into a room, you can feel the energy change. You can walk into a supposedly haunted location, and there's absolutely nothing going on, and you can feel that because the energy's dead. Literally, there's nothing going on. And then you can walk into certain locations, like let's just say Moundsville Penitentiary, which as soon as you walk through the doors, everything's heavy. The air is heavy. Everything's thick. It feels disturbing. You're hot. You have a hard time breathing. Places like that carry a lot of energy, and that's just an example. So so could that energy have been lifted? I think so, and I think it was lifted by prayer. As far as the F-bomb to you by blowing up all 10 light bulbs on top of the mirror, I'm not sure how that comes into play here. The only thing I can think of is, and the only reason I say this is because I've had it happen to me before, is if you get out of the shower and your lights were on and like you shake your head and you've got long hair, and water hits a hot light bulb, it'll shatter instantly. Now, is that what happened? I don't know. Is it possible? Sure. It's a real world plausible explanation that if you throw any type of water onto a hot light bulb that's plugged into a socket that's been on for a half hour or whatever, how long it took you to take a shower, can it explode? Absolutely, they do. I had it happen to me. Do I think that was an FU from the ghost as it was leaving? Absolutely not. So I'm going to throw that, the whole 10 light bulb thing, I'm going to toss that. I think that maybe that could be somebody trying to elaborate on something and not thinking that their story was good enough, is what I'm going to say. I don't think that takes away from the gist of what was happening here, in my opinion. So,
Gotcha. You know what I realized?
Huh?
You know what I realized while you were talking is there's no way my headphones could have died because it has a warning.
Yeah,
thing, like
usually it sends a signal, a beeping signal.
Well, that, or I think mine says something like you have 10% left, or plug in, or something along those lines. I heard none of that. So either my battery just suddenly dropped, or
Battery drain,
or StreamYard just stopped using it.
Well, either way, I was still
yeah,
live.
you were still transmitting. Yeah, you were still perfect.
I was still in the middle of my answer when you were freaking out, telling me that I wasn't. So
you are correct.
So that's all I got for that.
Do you want to just go to 7 and then?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, let's do that, and then let's move into our topic. So
since we're going to go over 9 o'clock since we missed.
Well, sure, because we lost
15,
20 minutes there. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this one's mine anyway, unless you want to take it.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
All right. Our last story for tonight. For those who believe in ghosts, I have a few questions as I'm on the fence. Question number 1. When ghosts appear or make a noise, is it their intention to be noticed? Like if nobody is home, do ghosts physically appear? Or do they show up 100% knowing they'll be seen? Is it their intention to completely freak people out, even if it's just them, say, walking across a hallway? I asked this because my stepson was on his phone and he glanced outside a window and briefly saw a white figure on our walkway. We live in a rural area in the country and don't get unannounced visitors very often. So, did the ghost know ahead of time my stepson was going to glance out that window at that very second? If it was a second before or after, my stepson would have missed it. Number 2, why do they wear clothes? How do they conjure up outfits? Clothes are a physical, inanimate object. I hear it takes energy for a ghost to visually appear. So why are they wearing clothes, and how do they decide what clothes they are wearing? Thanks. Okay, so let's take number 1. I do not believe that it is
the better
their...
of the 2 questions.
Say what?
The better of the 2 questions.
Yes, the better of the 2 questions.
Yeah.
Because I have often asked this question as well. If they even know that they're visible. And I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. Now, is it their intention to be noticed? Not always. I happen to know of a lot of cases where like former homeowners and stuff like that just want to be in the home. They know that you're there. They know that you're taking care of it. They don't care that you're there. They just want to be there. And so they go about their daily routines. They do whatever they want to do. And a lot of them try to stay out of your way. So no, it's definitely not always their intention to be noticed. And I personally, even though I don't have proof one way or the other, I personally think that there are times when they are visible or they are making noises where they don't intend to do so. Like maybe they're just using too much energy, and they appear or they make their sound. Can they have that intention? Absolutely. And sometimes they definitely do, for whatever their purpose is. You also need to take into account residual. You can see apparitions, you can hear noises, and they're all residual energy. They have no consciousness to them. So obviously there's no intent. There's no intent to freak you out. There's no intent to startle you. There's no intent at all to do anything. It's just for some reason, the energy that is associated with that memory or that event plays itself over again. Just one of those things. Obviously, sometimes they have the intention to freak you out. Like that's the whole point. It's not as common, in my opinion, it's not as common as like the shows and the reenactments and stuff would make you believe, but it can definitely be a goal that they have. I think that it's all on us. I've told my investigators countless times that 80% of what we do is, as investigators, is how we conduct ourselves, how we take things, how we take experiences. If you yell and scream and run out of the house just because, you saw a shadow, out of the corner of your eye, you probably shouldn't be in that business. You probably won't remain on my team for very much longer. But if you take it like a champ and you want to go forward and do it, well, then, you should be doing that. So there's a lot of different factors in it. So I think for this first question, was that spirit that your stepson saw walking across your path or whatever, trying to get his attention? I doubt it. Because if it was trying to get his attention, it wouldn't have appeared for 1 second walking outside the window. It would have, if it was outside, it would have been standing at the window looking at him. So do they appear when we're not there? Yeah, I think they do. We got tons of, security cameras and stuff that pick them up, just doing their thing, whether anybody's home or not. The question number 2, honestly, is irrelevant. Who cares? I get the inquiry. I honestly do. I I don't think that spirits wake up and are like, well, let me put on my, camisole and my cardigan sweater and I'll go out in my pair of, tight jeans. Like, I don't think they wake up and pick out an outfit. I think that you have tons of experiences of people wearing the clothes that they died in. They died tragically and stuff like that. Honestly, I think they appear when it's intentional to make things comfortable for the people who are going to see them. If grandma showed up naked, probably wouldn't want to talk to her for very long until she put on some damn clothes.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think if they have the energy to appear to you and interact with you, they have the energy to make themselves look however they want, whether clothed or not. And I think it's going to match who they were when they were alive. Like you're not going to see some homeless person that died suddenly appearing wearing Gucci. Like I don't think they have it in them. So I just think that it's part of their identity, and that's how they are seen. That's how they want to appear. So yeah, good questions. I mean, like I said, I get the inquiry, but the whole clothes thing, I couldn't care less what clothes they're wearing, or I guess I really can't say I don't care if they're not wearing clothes or not, because I probably would. I don't know what I would do if, like, old man Higgins suddenly appeared and just was like, I'm dead, I don't need to wear clothes, and he's all naked. Like I'd probably just be like, I don't need to investigate this place anymore. Yeah, got a pervert walking around here. So those are my answers.
Okay, I'm going to start with number 2 first. I don't think that ghosts get dressed. So, and I'll just leave it at that. I don't think that I'm with you. I don't think they pick out an outfit. I don't think they get dressed. I think I'm not sure where that question even comes from, to be honest. I agree. I think that when we pass away, if we choose to show ourselves back to this realm for whatever reason, if we choose to do it, then I think that we have the ability to show ourselves as we choose to show ourselves. So, like we've talked about in the past, just because somebody, let's say, dies in a horrific car accident, that's not necessarily how they're going to show themselves to their loved ones if they're coming back to say a final goodbye. That's not how they're going to appear. They're going to appear at a time when they're going to appear in such a way that if you're I'll just give you an example. Okay, so let's say when my daughters were young and something tragic happened to me and it was a brutal, like bloodbath type of violent death, I certainly would not show back up in my children's lives and be like, hey, honey, it's dad. I just wanted to come back and tell you that I'm going to be okay and you're going to be okay too. And I'll see you somewhere down the road, as I'm standing there with my face ripped off. And, that's not going to happen. Now, would I do that to somebody else? Would I show up at somebody else's place looking like that? Maybe. Would I do? But would I do it to my kids? Absolutely not. So I'm going to show up for them as I would as their dad in a very comforting, loving type of situation and appearance. Okay, so let's get to the first one. This reminds me of like if a tree falls in the forest, does it make any sound?
Oh, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Right. So do ghosts appear when nobody's watching? Absolutely they do. Why wouldn't they? It's not like they need an audience in order to go about doing what they're doing. If you followed our show for 270 some episodes, you would know that as we've progressed intellectually and in theory over the years, evolved, yeah. that and with some excellent guests and excellent conversations that we've had over the years, that a spirit is going to do whatever the spirit's going to do, and you don't have to be there to witness it. So I guess for that answer, no, I don't think that there's 100% that they're waiting to be seen and that they're not going to show up until they know that it's a moment when they're going to be seen. Do I think that's the case? Like 90+% of the time? Absolutely not. If it's an individual that is intentionally trying to cause mischief or trying to cause emotional harm to someone or mental harm to someone in some sort of vengeance or whatever, which would be a perfect reason why they didn't move on in the first place, then is that a potential? Sure. That is, I would say in that situation, that's a potential, that they're not going to waste their ability to manifest just for the hell of it when they know that they have a specific purpose as to why they're still around, and that their purpose is to screw with this other individual's existence on our plane, and that they're going to use all the energy they can to come and manifest back here in order to screw with that individual as well as they can. And as far as your stepson seeing out the window, I'm just going to put that as that's just a great personal experience. I don't think that first of all, I don't know that it was a ghost. I mean, you live out in the country. It could have just been fog. It could have been a ton of different natural explanations. But let's assume for the sake of argument that it was an entity, that something was there and that he saw it. Was it there? No. Like, why would a spirit be on the walkway outside the window and like, oh my God, check this out. Wait till that kid looks over here from his phone. He gets done playing his game or watching that video. And then he's going to look over here and I'm going to manifest on this walkway outside 50 yards away. No. Is that, I'm throwing that one out the window. That's getting the bullshit flag from me tonight. I think that whatever he saw could be a misinterpretation of what it really was, but assuming that it was a spirit, that was just a great personal experience and a chance happening, that he looked out the window, he looked out the window, some reason told him to look out the window. He did. He saw something he couldn't explain. He had a personal moment. Maybe it was his baptism into the paranormal, who knows? So that's what I got. Good question. Number one, really good question. Number two, who cares? Who cares how close? But I do agree with Mike, right? Like, I don't want to see some old guy coming walking at me nude, and then like trying to have some sort of intellectual conversation. It's just, could I do it? Sure. Would I want to be in that there doing it? No. So
honestly, I mean, as long as I'm not at like a private case, where it's very important, the questions that you ask,
well,
I might start asking that question.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I wouldn't leave in any way, but I would say something like, I would be like, you could put something like a robe on or something, right?
Can you manifest a robe?
I mean, I would default to the robe. I'd just be like, hey, you could throw a robe on, wrap a towel around yourself. I don't care what you do, right? I mean, unless we're like at, the Playboy Mansion or something like that. That's a whole different can of worms.
I just think the same thing.
Yeah. Then I'm going to be totally fine with doing interviews with spirits, that are scantily clad or not wearing anything at all. But as far as Mr. Jenkins, who died when he was 86, I'm not going to want to see him sitting next to me or standing next to me with his junk hanging out and trying to do some sort of intelligent conversation. Yeah. Or grandma,
Right. Exactly.
So,
all righty. Well, that is tonight's mailbag. That went way over, but
yeah, I was going to say 2 hours, an hour 46 of mailbag minus 16 minutes of trying to debunk something.
Yes. All right. Transitioning into our main topic for tonight, which is kind of stories of angels potentially saving people. And I think there's not a person alive who really needs us to go into the biblical like history of angels and whatnot. We just wanted to talk about how they interact with us. Whereas next week, when we talk about the evil side of things and the demonic, we're going to be talking about how they interact with us and stuff like that, and giving as much stories and information as we can. So this came up a couple weeks ago because, as I said earlier in the show, I was watching a documentary on tornadoes, and more importantly, the Joplin, Missouri tornado that happened on May 22nd of 2011. And for those of you who don't know anything about that tornado, it was massive.
F5.
And yeah, it was an EF5, which is the most, if you ever watched the movie Twister, that's
Right.
actually pretty much exactly what it is. As it was described, the thunder of God. This tornado was a mile wide, like not just like in the middle of a field, a mile wide. It was the costliest tornado in history. In 2011, it was $2.8 billion of damage. And now in 2023, that's $3.64 billion worth of damage. 161 people died, over 1,000 people injured, and it destroyed like 900 homes in the Joplin area. Now, the tornado itself, obviously not paranormal, but and I was just watching because I'm interested in tornadoes because I'll never see one because weather would have to get bad around me.
The
Which
only way you're going to see a tornado is from on TV.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the only way you're going to see one.
I think I could chase a tornado and it would run away from me.
Mm-hmm.
But what got me interested in this is I was 40 minutes into this thing. I was just enjoying watching and learning and whatnot, when all of a sudden they started talking about children seeing what they called the butterfly people, and that obviously perked up my ears, put my phone down, because I was just kind of half watching, half listening. I'm like, what? Like this first, I had heard of the Joplin tornado for years. I mean, obviously, because I'm interested in that subject. Never heard of this part of it. And as it turns out, there were many, many stories from different children who didn't have any sort of connection to each other. Like this was just in the days following the tornado, when they were either at the grocery store or the Salvation Army, whatever they were at, would start talking about how they were saved by what they called the butterfly people, obviously humanoid type figures with wings on their backs, which obviously leads you to think of angels. Mm-hmm. So I tried to read, there was an article that was written in the St. Louis Times, something like St. Louis Post-Dispatch. That was mid-December that year. And it was about the butterfly people. I tried to read that exact one, but as soon as I went to it, it brought up are you a subscriber? You should be a subscriber. And if you're not a subscriber, you should go back to the homepage and subscribe, because we're not going to let you read this article.
Right.
So I couldn't, but I did find another article that was written the next year in 2012 that was mentioned the first article. And there were a lot of different, there was a couple stories in it, which I found interesting. And So one of the stories, I'll just start, and then obviously you can throw in whatever. Um, a mother and a preschool age daughter, they ran from their car as the tornado came close to them. Um, they actually fell to the ground, and the mother tried to cover her daughter, as best she could. So the mother watched the tornado send their car flying in their direction, and like braced herself for, obviously
Impact.
probably about to be crushed, by their own car.
Right.
But it never came, and both of them were fine, perfectly fine. And afterwards, the daughter asked the mother if she thought that they were pretty, and she's like, "Who are you talking about?" And the girl responded by asking her if she had seen the butterfly people, and there are stories of like these butterfly lifting men and women into the sky as if to, I guess, bring them to heaven. I didn't get a lot into that, but like there was some other father was with a couple of preschool aged boys, and the wind was so powerful it ripped the soles off his shoes, but they were all fine. And the preschool age boys talked about the butterfly people that were protecting them from above. And so before I go on from that, let you weigh in on them, because I mentioned them to you and you had said you had heard of them before.
Yeah, I have. I find it interesting that the vast majority of these reports come from kids. They didn't come from adults. They all came from kids. Here's the interesting thing, though, on that. So for somebody who wants to say, well, it was just kids over imagination, or these couple of kids saw it and didn't know how to interpret it, or it was debris flying or whatever. The facts of the matter on that are there were hundreds and hundreds of kids who reported this, like even young adults, teenagers from all over walks of life. It didn't matter if you were poor, if you were wealthy, if you were from Spanish descent or African American or Caucasian. It didn't make any difference. Everybody was reporting this event happening, and they were all describing pretty much the exact same thing. I don't know how you dismiss that. I don't know how you take that. If it were like, let's just say hypothetically, it was a school bus with second graders, third, fourth grade, whatever, about that age, third graders, let's say. And they all said, well, yeah, so-and-so saw something, and then so did I. I would say that you have more likelihood there to dismiss that as a case of mass hysteria and or kids wanting to be included. And so therefore, because so-and-so said that they saw it, I'm going to agree with them and say I saw it too. But that's not what happened here. You've got all these different people from all walks of life, different age groups, that all saw and described the exact same thing, drew the same thing, the whole 9 yards. Did something happen in this particular situation? I would say, yeah. I think it's amazing that as bad as this tornado was, hitting a major metropolis like Joplin, Missouri, that only 161 people passed. It sounds like a lot, but if you put that into the scope of how devastating this tornado was, and if you look at the photos of how devastating this tornado was, I don't know how in the hell only 161 people died. I don't know. When this thing came into town, I would think it'd kill 161 people in the first 5 seconds. If you look at the devastation that it left. So I think there was a whole bunch of something happening there. Angels?
I mean,
I don't know.
Well,
something.
See, here's what got my attention. I mentioned this to you this afternoon when we were kind of talking about it. So the story described more than one Joplin child who was in or near the ER5 tornado saying they witnessed a small human-like beings with forms like butterflies,
Right.
trying to help those trapped in the tornado that claimed 161 lives and destroyed at least 900 homes.
Right.
And to your point, when you said about only 161 people died, like it wasn't just like some shingles off your roof or your chimney got destroyed. Like we're talking completely gone, like a
to the
pile
foundation.
of rubble.
Right.
You know, an EF5 tornado a mile wide, winds get up to over 200 miles an hour.
Right.
You know, and so I agree with you on that one. Only 161 people with over 900 homes destroyed. And that's just the homes.
That's amazing.
They had video. I mean, thank God it was a Sunday. Because I mean, they had video of like the middle school and the high school that were just they were half were just absolutely destroyed. Like they had security cameras of like the cafeteria when this thing came through.
Right.
And so I mean, if it would have been a Wednesday afternoon, I think it would have been a hell of a lot worse. But anyway,
it would have been dinner time on a Tuesday. It would have been a hell of a lot worse. Right, 6 p.m. on a Tuesday when everybody's sitting down to eat, just got home from work, blah, blah, blah. 900 homes, you can account for 2 people per home. That's 1,800 people right there, let alone businesses, people that got caught in parking lots, people that might have still been at work at the factory when the factory roof collapsed and fell straight down and destroyed everything in the building. You know.
So when I read this,
God, man.
Right, yeah, pretty much. So they witnessed small human-like beings with forms like butterflies. That got me thinking that maybe we're not talking about angels at all, but maybe fairies. And because as far as I know, anybody who has seen an angel, they've been fully formed, you know, hunking, you know, perfect specimens, you know, 6 foot tall, you know, with the huge wings on their back, you know, not small human-like figures. That to me like rings out like Tinkerbell and, you know, like fairies and stuff like that. So
let me throw something in here. Let me throw something quick in here while we're on this exact topic. So are we talking angels like sent from God, or are we talking angels as in guardian angels looking out for a particular individual that they're assigned to? Because I take it as, so just to clarify, I take it as guardian angels, not angels sent from heaven. I'm taking this, I think that there was interaction coming from angels that were individual angels watching over a particular human being. So a guardian angel, that person's guardian angel or angels for that one individual, not angels descending from heaven. That's not what I envision.
So let me ask you this then. Since you're obviously getting there's a difference between angels sent from heaven and guardian angels. If that's the case, when did guardian angels have to appear with wings at all? Because in a lot of these the cases that I found, I mean, because we were talking about how irritating it was not to be able to find what we were looking for.
Right.
Even when we put in, you know, such things like angels saving people, and you know, it would bring up Lady Gaga, you know, freaking quitting music, you know, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I came across a bunch of stories, and we've had stories countless times over the years of people who believe they were saved or they had an encounter with a guardian angel. None of them had wings. They all appeared, you know, they all appeared as normal human beings and then suddenly disappeared.
Right.
So why, if these are not angels from heaven, especially since some of the stories where they saw these angel-like, you know, butterfly people taking men and women up into the sky.
Right.
Why would they have wings?
That's a good question, and you got to take a look at the audience. I guess when you try to decipher that question, you have to take a look at the audience, and once again, our audience is children caught in a catastrophic life or death situation. So,
Right.
did they really see winged beings, or were they scared out of their freaking minds thinking? I mean, honestly, turning back the clock to 2011, I know it's not that long ago, but it's far enough in the past, right? That if you're 6, 7, 8 years old, your concept of death, maybe you've lost a pet, like you had a hamster or goldfish and it died, right? So you understand maybe a little bit of loss, like that personal loss feeling. Like that was my favorite goldfish, Sparky. I had him for 2 years. He was the best goldfish ever, type of thing. And I'm not belittling goldfish passing away here. I'm just using this as an example. So, would some type of hysteria come into play? I think it's a real world possibility. Do I think that the kids actually witnessed little tiny fairy people with wings? I don't know. If that was, but I will say this: if that was the case, then, and they should. Number one, why were they there? So let's answer that question ourselves. They were there because there was this huge natural disaster happening. Now, let's just say that it was either angels or fairies for this question, okay? So either one. We're not going to differentiate between the two. So there's some sort of special being, something we don't completely understand, is at this event, this EF5 tornado, that is going to devastate this town, this city, okay? These beings show up to help the best they can and save, in reality, probably save 90% of what potentially the people that could have died. Okay. If that is the case, and assuming that that's the case, then why aren't these type of individuals reported all over the place when there's other natural disasters happening? When you've got the tsunami coming in and people are getting wiped out to sea, why aren't there butterfly people saving individuals, moving them to higher ground, lifting them up, getting them out of harm's way? If there's the nuclear reactor exploding, any countless tornado or earthquake or just any devastating storm, straight line winds, I don't care. Take a look at any natural. Is it forest fires? Take a look at any natural disaster. Why don't these why aren't these particular butterfly people showing up at these other things? As a common sense man, I would think that if these were some type of beings that were concerned about the survival of mankind, then they would be prolific around the world in saving individuals. I just lost you.
I'm still here.
My monitor just turned off. Oh,
that's awesome.
That's okay. I'm back. As I say, that's never happened. Man, we are having some weird technical difficulties today.
Yes,
sir.
Some shit
that's never happened before is happening. It's kind of strange. So I'm not saying it's paranormal. I'm just pointing out there's some strange shit happening on this broadcast. So why haven't these individuals shown up in multiple cases? I would think that there would be dozens and dozens and dozens of reports of, man, we saw something similar to what the individuals in Joplin, Missouri saw.
I might have an answer to that.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a very, very good point. And that would obviously lead me to get rid of the whole angels from heaven, because they can go anywhere.
Right.
And I know that that's your point of the guardian angels for those specific people, but from what I understand, uh, elementals, which is what which is what a fairy is. It's a kind of elemental, are very territorial, and so I would think that if they were responsible, or their home was the area of Joplin, Missouri, and around that area, which I believe is in the Ozarks. So I mean, there's a lot of nature and stuff out there. Um, they would want to protect that, but
Right.
obviously that leads to the question of, okay, I understand you want to protect the land. Why are you protecting the people on it?
Right.
And and that could be simply a kids thing. That only the kids saw him. Well, I shouldn't say not only the kids, mostly kids
It was mostly
saw him.
kids. Right.
Right. So the innocence is there. They haven't done anything wrong to any, maybe these fairies were protecting anybody that they could, as you said, to the best of their ability.
Right.
But I think that's probably why you don't see that all over the place. I mean, not to mention an EF5 tornado is rare.
It's rare.
It's rare. And so I mean, maybe it's got to be something so traumatically huge and intense, like an EF5 tornado, that actually makes them come out and try to protect what they can. I mean, maybe elementals understand that even though it is their land, they're there to protect it, they need humans to take care of it. They can't do it all themselves. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different theories that we could throw out as to what their motivation could be.
Right.
But I think it's got to be one or the other. So one of us is probably right on this one. I think it's either very specific guardian angels, but again, I get to your point about them being scared or whatnot, but all of them seeing the same thing and not really telling you about it. I mean, if they didn't have wings, then I don't think all of these kids would take that they have wings.
Right.
And I don't hear guardian angel stories where they actually have wings, unless it's so intense that it actually is an angel from heaven. But I guess I don't know, or it's just the fact that whole area, which was being destroyed by this tornado, was in the fairies and the elementals territory, their area, their home. Maybe they felt a kindred spirit. We consider the land our home. You consider this area your home. We're going to try and do what we can to help everybody. I don't know which one.
I get you. I get what you're saying. I wonder, think of how much energy is produced, right, in an EF5 storm. Right.
Off the charts.
We talk about energy all the time, like the transference of energy and things using energy and stuff like that. I mean, the amount of energy produced by a natural disaster like that is astronomical. Like you said, off the charts, it's astronomically high. So, this would be one of those moments where if you could somehow replicate that on a smaller scale and get the energy somehow man-made to hit those peaks, could you create some sort of situation where a manifestation of these beings would materialize again, thinking that something really bad is happening here? This is similar to what happened now I'm sure they're not saying this to themselves, oh my God, it's Joplin, Missouri all over again. But, you get the gist, right? That like they can sense, oh my God, the energy levels are you know, let's go to this location. So I wonder if something like that could be replicated, and if you would see any type of similar results.
I don't think you would, and the reason for that being, the only way to have that man-made and to have, to try and get the same type of results is if, these beings are purely instinctual.
Right.
Like they don't really understand what is going on. They just know that something needs to be done. I would think that if you had a man-made anything and that even put out that type of energy, I think they would understand what is going on. And they'd be like, well, I don't know what they're doing. It's the stupid humans again. They really think that we're going to come out like nobody's in any danger.
Right.
Like I think that they would realize that.
So superior intelligence.
I would really hope so. Not even superior intelligence, just the understanding of what is actually happening and going on. We've talked to countless intelligent spirits, and they always seem to know what is going on.
Oh yeah.
What our equipment is doing and what it's used for, whether cameras are on them, like they always know. And it's not because they're superiorly intelligent, because they have eyes. They have the ability to comprehend and understand what is going on.
Right.
So I don't think that we would fool them is basically what I'm saying. Into believing that another like EF5 natural disaster is taking place and people are in danger. I just don't think we could do it.
Fair enough.
So we spent all this time talking about what could be potentially fairies,
it's the angel show, but we're talking about fairies.
Well, I mean, it's the butterfly people, and they are considered by the people of Joplin to be potentially angels.
Right.
The people who believe in it.
So for people who are listening to this, who, number one, don't even know that Joplin, Missouri was the site of an EF5 tornado, and have no idea, or this is the first time that you're hearing about the butterfly people, take a couple minutes out of your day and read up on it. It's really a fascinating story, and there's a lot of really good reporting done, like intelligent reporting, not over glamorization of facts, just kind of straight, intelligent, focused writing. I found some really, really good articles, and I did years ago when I did research on this event. There's some really good, well-written stuff out there. Eyewitness accounts, good interviews, good writers, good reporters that documented, this situation. It's a fascinating type of thing, especially for the amount of individuals that witnessed whatever these beings were, whether they were angels, guardian angels, angels from heaven, fairies, or something else. Who knows, right? I mean, maybe Joplin, Missouri has some sort of special meaning to some intelligent life from extraterrestrial life. Maybe there's something there that's important to them, or maybe there's some sort of relationship that the individuals who live there have with an intelligent life from some other planet, and and they witnessed this happening, and they were like, well, we can't lose our friends, and they came down and did the best they could to save lives. Who knows? I mean, it's common that it seems like that would make sense to me, and it would explain why they saw, like individuals saw something that they've never seen before. Now, also, I have not heard of extraterrestrial life that looks like small humanoid figures with butterfly wings either, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. Just because I haven't heard of it doesn't mean they don't exist. That would be narrow-minded of me to say something like that.
Yep.
So I do have, and not moving on really from Joplin or angels, but we were talking about like guardian angels. So I've got a good, if nobody has seen this one, And the only reason I mention it is because I just happened to be watching a race a couple of weeks ago, and Dale Jr. was announcing for the race. And it brought back a memory of mine when we were talking about doing a Guardian Angel show, that when he was at, it was a race in California, like Pomona or something. It wasn't a NASCAR race. It was more of like the IMSA racing with like track, like road course racing, you know, that type of racing. And
Yeah, sure.
He was in his Corvette that he raced in that particular type of event, and got into an accident, and his Corvette basically exploded. And if you look at the pictures online, you'd be like, there's no way anybody lived through that. It's just not going to happen. I actually looked at photos of it again tonight before the show, and I just shook my head too. So my headphones are annoying the shit out of me. Something keeps bugging in my ear. I mean, literally, I'm just going to turn them off. Something keeps popping into my ear. Like, there's some shit happening tonight that is just starting to annoy me. But anyway, so he gets in a bad crash. He's literally trapped in his car. The way that the accident happened, he can't get out, and he's thinking to himself, and he's even said this, you know, he's thinking to himself, this is it. You know, I've had a great racing career. I've had a great life. This is bad. This isn't going to end well. And as he's thinking that to himself, he feels two hands come under his armpits, and somebody reach in, pick him up out of the seat, and pull him out through the car door and pull him away from the vehicle. That's an inferno. I mean, this thing is an inferno. And pull him out of the car and pull him away from the burning vehicle, and then set him down on the track. And when he turns around to take a look, there's absolutely nobody there. You know, if that's not a perfect guardian angel story saying, you know what, it's not your time yet. You still got some stuff that you need to do while you're here. You know, I don't know what is. But if you watch it, there's cameras that actually witness the crash and stuff like that. He actually got out of the vehicle by himself, but he has absolutely no recollection of that whatsoever. He felt two hands go under his armpits and pull him out of the vehicle, even though he climbed out of the vehicle. So where does the miracle happen, and where does the human mind come into play in that situation, right? So there's a similar one too I wanted to share quick that, so a gentleman, Pastor John Boston's driving on Airport Road in Columbus, Ohio in 2015. He gets in a terrible car accident that slides into a telephone pole that causes a live transformer to crash onto his car. So Fox 8 Cleveland News reports that he was trapped inside. The car was burning an inferno. The windshield melted, and that's how hot the fire was. The windshield melted and was melting into the car onto him. Both the car doors had folded shut because of the impact. Pastor Boston said a stranger casually walked up to his car, opened the car door, and pulled him out of the vehicle to safety. The stranger told Boston that his name was Johnny and that he had to leave the scene before the first responders arrived because he said, and I quote, "I can't be here when they get here. That's just how it is." Pastor Boston never saw Johnny again and walked away with only minor injuries, but a more profound sense of determination to serve after what he called his miracle encounter, that he believes strongly that it was an angel. You know, it's stories like that that make you scratch your head and just say, well, was it just not that person's time? We talk about that all the time. I mean, why didn't I die when I was in septic shock and I had 105 fever and the doctor said, hey, you got about 10%, so sort your shit out. 10% chance of walking out of here. But I didn't. I walked out of there. But why? Why is it that sometimes we move on instead of succumbing to whatever it is that's trying to take us out?
So and this will probably be the final point because we got to guess on when
Yeah, exactly.
when our show is over.
Exactly.
But I'm wondering if it is when the reason that you're in that situation was intentionally caused by evil energy, and they're there to keep the balance. When evil strikes, so does good in order
Right.
to counteract that. So, you talk about, and I don't know I honestly, I don't know the timeline of it, but I mean, you talked and have on the show about, the little evil Tasmanian devil
The little
and,
Tasmanian devil. Yeah.
and stuff that,
Yep.
so I mean, were you, uh, was everything that happened to you after that the
Yeah.
cause of that? And so good came along, whether you're aware of it or not, and counteracted, you know, move the balance back.
Right.
So, I mean, was this father or bishop, this religious man or whatever, was his accident an accident? I mean, I'm sure to us it would be an accident, but were there foul energies at play? And when that happened, causing his crash or whatever, because I mean, if you read The Demonologist, which is about Ed and Lorraine Warren,
Right.
anytime, or I shouldn't say anytime, but a lot of times when they would leave a demonic case, whether it's just an interview or whatever, like Ed would hold both hands on the steering wheel as tight as he could, because every once in a while something would come along and yank the steering wheel to try to
Right.
throw him off the road.
Right.
Um, so is that the balance? I don't want to say this EF5 tornado was caused by evil
No.
evil energies or whatever. We're not even sure we're talking about angels, fully on there. But I think that there can be a way that we're not aware of and we're not supposed to be aware of, where there is some sort of battle going on where we're right in the middle of it. And if something bad moves somebody's path in a certain direction towards their demise or whatever, if a guardian angel or whatever you want to call them, let's just go with Constantine's thing of half breeds,
It's exactly what
along.
came into my mind when you said that was the scene in the liquor store when he drinks himself to death, and you've got the demon there, and the guardian angel flows his wings out like, "You move towards this man, and I'll destroy you. I'll smite your ass right here in the store." That's exactly the vision that popped into my head when you were talking about that.
Yeah, and they're there to try to help them. I mean, obviously they can only do so much, and
Right.
maybe sometimes they fail. But I'm wondering if that's just something that we are now not supposed to understand that is going on. And when people have these encounters, it might be because for whatever reason they were put unnaturally into that position to begin with.
Well, that's a great segue going into Demon Show next week.
Segue!
Do those son of a bitches throw us in harm's way to try and accomplish evil tasks, darkness, pain and suffering, things that we think of when we think of evil entities, demons?
Perhaps. Very, very perhaps. All right. Well, that's the yawn of the night.
That's the cue right there that it's
That's
time.
the cue that the show is over. That's the warning bell.
That is the warning bell right there.
All righty. So that does it for us this week. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode, and hopefully none of these glitches. Like I said, it's like StreamYard saying, "Hold my deer." But all right. So everyone stay healthy, stay safe. Try to not burst into flames and melt like I typically do the last week. But stay safe. Everyone, have a great night.